Hi and welcome to session 2 of Material Notes for Cycles. This time I will go through how you could add image textures onto your object without using the UV. So let's get started. We will use the same background as before, which means that if you don't have it already, go into the Word, use Notes Background, select Environment Texture, and we will, as you remember, use the winter forest. So here we have it, winter forest, and you can see if you press render, it's quite white. Okay, we will also have a window for the node editor. Good. Now we have what we need, and let's do some very simple modeling. What I will build here is just a ground with stairs up to a very simple square house, nothing else. But I will then paint it with some image textures. So we start building the stairs here. We can use this cube. It's already here, so why not? And what we will do is we scale it down a little bit, and yes, S and scale. And then you can use SX, scale on the X direction, and make it a little bit wider, so scale Y like that. Okay, now we have one step, and we could use object apply scale. Now let's give it some ground as well. So Shift A, mesh, plane, S10, scale up it 10 times like that, and drag it down a bit, G, Z, something like that. You could let some of the stairs go through because, yeah, it looks more natural. We will not do anything advanced, but anyway. Since we would like to have some steps here, we could select this again, and perhaps rename it to stairs. Just double click and you get it. When we have stairs here, we select the modifier, add modifier, and do an array. For letting offset is okay, 0 here, and add like, yeah, 1 could be a little bit much, 0.8, something like that, and then we go up 1 step. Okay, 1 step, 2 step, 3 step, something like that. We have a stair. And we could also add some soft corners just for the sake of it. So we press add modifier and bevel. Was a little bit too fast there. And could set segment to 2 like this. Okay, now we have ground, we have stairs, and we need a house. So let's build a house. Shift A, select cube. Scale it up S10, something like that. Okay, we are inside the house. Now let's move it a little bit. G, Y, move it out like that. And yeah, we can move it up if we want to. G, Z, something like that. It doesn't matter because now it's not about the modeling so much. It's more about G, Y, something like that. It's more about the nodes. So this is rather sloppy modeling, but just so we have something. Perhaps the door as well, so we can select the cube as we have. Can also name it house, so we know that it's a house, and we can name the plane ground. So now we know everything. Select house, press tab, and loop, cut and slide a few times, one for this area here, and one for this area here, and one for the height. So it starts about here and have I don't know, something like that. Select faces and this face, press X or delete, delete the face, and we should have a floor here as well, I believe, so just select edges. One of the edges, while pressing Alt, will select everything around, and just press F as a face, then you have a floor here. And we could also have some thickness very easily. Just select that one, that one, that one, do some extrude Y, something like that. We will have the camera like here, so it doesn't matter if we don't have anything more like that. Okay, a house, a ground, a star. That is what we need. So we go back like this. And now it's time for us to put on some material. And as I said, this time we will use image textures. All the image textures I've used is from textures.com, so they are free to use and you can download as you will. You can of course use exactly the same as I have chosen, or you can select whatever you want. The only thing you should check is that you use seamless texture, because if not you will see all the edges every time it starts over and over again, and that's not good. So use seamless in this case. We don't need seamless always, but when we do things like this, that's very easy to do. Seamless is always the best. Okay, back to Blender. So if I start with the ground, then I select the ground, I go to material, add a new material, I name it ground, and as always we have diffuse here. Now we need an image texture, so Shift A, texture, image texture, yellow and yellow. Fine, and now go a little bit closer. Open, and I will open my ground texture. So I go to textures, I have something here, session 2, and by looking at them I can see that this is the ground. Okay, now I have added an image and diffuse, and I have an output. It should show here, or how does it look now? Disappointed? Well, it's how it works. And I will explain a little bit about this. When we were working in last session, we used the wave texture, and we got it on here as soon as we pressed render. And that is because you use a vector called generated, and that is what you use for all the textures that is included in Blender. But for image texture, the default is not generated, it's UV, because they expect you to UV anything that you build. So you have to force it to be generated, and that you will do at an input node. So Shift A, input, and you select texture coordinate. And here you see you have generated, you have normal, UV, object, and so on. We will go through them all later on. But in this session, we will just conclude that if we connect generated with the vector here, we suddenly have a ground. It's like magic. It's there, fine. Now we can leave it. We have ground here's name, so we know where to find it later on, because we will have it later on. Next thing we will do is to add some bricks on the house. So we do that as well. Solid, so we know this one. We can go back to render again and select new. And as you can see, it's the house. Okay. The same thing here. Shift A, texture, image texture, connect yellow with yellow, select open, find your texture, and in this case it should be something on the house. So in my case I have bricks, which you will see when I add an input for generated. So connect those two and you will see something very strange. What you can see is up here it looks fine, but down here it's just straight lines, and that is not what we wanted. Okay, how to fix that? Very easy. The only thing you have to know is that image texture also have an in parameter that you can change. You can change it to tube, to sphere, to box, and to flat. As default, it's flat, which means it looks like a plane. But this is not a plane, it's a box. So change it to box, and suddenly, wow, magic again. You now have a brick all over. Every little place is with bricks, as it should be. And exactly the same thing you could do with the stairs. Before we do that, we can rename this to brick and start with the stairs. So use nodes, and now I think you can do it by your own. Shift A, input texture coordinates, go into Shift A, texture, image texture, connect those two, connect that one, select an image, which in this case will be the image for the stairs. So we will see stairs, something like that, marble, straight lines, not correct, okay, change to box. Fine! Now we have almost everything we need, and if we look from the camera view, press N, go down, lock camera to view, then we can change the view a little bit so we see something like that, and tick again. Then it looks rather nice, but if we do a quick render of this one, it will go rather quick because we don't have many polygons in this case, so it's only about texture. It looks okay, but still you have, it's a flat area here, it's very flat, and it's very flat all. The only thing that doesn't look flat is the ground here, of some reason. It should be flat. What we will do is add some bumps on that, and that, and that, to get some realism in this picture. So that will be the next step. Now we know how to add texture. Now we should make them look a little bit nicer. We will cheat a little bit, but it works. So let's do it. Go back to 3D view and start with selecting the house, and you will see house brick, that's correct. So now we are going to change things over here. We will use a vector, bump vector. With the bump vector you could add a visual so it looks like it have bumps on it, and that you can do rather easy. And as you have probably noticed before, the dots have different colors, yellow to yellow, green to green, and we will also use gray in this little session here, but not from alpha, from the color to that, and I will show you how. But first of all, yeah, just we just do it. It's easier. Shift A, color, or converter, and convert RGB to black and white. So yellow to gray. Normally you can also do color, non-color data, but if you do non-color data in this particular, then you will not have any color here. You would like to have that one, so we keep that. You could also do two image textures and use both of them, but I just put this in between. Then the color will be black and white, and we will use black and white here because if you use white, it will mean things will go down a little bit, and black they will go up. So it's the shading that decides how much the image will go up and down in a bumps, but you will see. So I take the value here and put it to height, and now we have two blue here that we connect. So we have normal, and now you can see something will be changed here, but it could be better than this. Here you can see in the picture that it's, if I disconnect that one, it looks like this. If I connect, it looks like that. So you can see it gets bumps, but it feels a little bit strange. And in that case, you can just press invert, and now it looks much better here. So you can always try different things. How much it should affect, it's the strength, and how high or low, that the distance. So if you would really go high with the distance, you will see it will change a lot here. But if you go down with the strength, it will be a little bit less, but still higher than a low distance. So you can play with the material as you like to get it really, really nice. But you can get it even nicer by connecting the fuse with something that reflects. So we add Shift A and add another shader, the glossy one, puts it here, connect, mix shader, connect, and add the normal here as well. Now we have a lot of glossy. We can change that, of course, going up or going down, as you remember. To get it really good, you can use an input for this as well. We can put here Fresnel and connect the Fresnel to this one. And now it reflects that it should be reflected, and if you look at that picture, it looks quite okay. So that is all you have to do. And if you do the same to the star and same to the ground, it will really look great. So just select the star, do the same thing. Shift A, converter, RGB black and white, add a vector bump, add a value to the height, some glossiness, Shift A, shader, glossy, connect, shader, mix, connect, mix them a little bit using an input Fresnel here to FSA, and connect the normal, and now everything should be okay. Let's see. doesn't look so much, but it should be. Also, I was just thinking if I had done something. It could be that this has very, very little changes in grayscale, so then you can play a little bit with that as well, which in this case is good, because then you will have something more learned today. So color, then you use bright and contrast, you put it here. Now you see, I used alpha, that was the reason, but we can keep this one. Color to color. Now you can see really much happening. We can, I believe, invert will be better, because now the stones go upwards and not downwards, and we can decide what strength we want to have to this one. Just a little one here, something like that. Yes, about the bright and contrast. Yes, the image is not just one-to-one in all cases. In some cases you would like to have some less or more, and you can steer it here in contrast if you want to, and in brightness. You can see now that if I go up in contrast, everything in the picture will be a little bit more white, so something disappears and just a few things remains, while if I go on the other direction, it works, of course, the opposite. So by playing with these things here, you can decide if you want everything to be reflected as bumps or just a few of those things. So it could be good sometimes to put the bright contrast before to get the realism of everything. So it's just like that, and you will do the same with the ground, and I believe you have understood how we do everything now. It's always the same. So since it's image texture, you use the generated first to decide that we will not use UV, we will use generated. We connect that vector to this one, and we use the image texture, and you decide in the image texture if it should be a box, which it should be in this case, since it's the stairs and they are boxes, or if it should be something else, flat or sphere or tube or whatever. In most cases, even if you don't have an exact box or cube, it will work with box, or if you have a sphere, it will work even if it's not completely 100% sphere. So just take that one that is nearest. After that, you just connect the image to a diffuse, and from the diffuse you go to the output, but in most cases you will also add a glossy shader. And to get the bumps, you can then add an additional image texture, put it here, select non-color data, or you could just do a change RGB to black and white, just to get the gray to the gray. You put in a bump vector, you look very closely so you have the normal both to the diffuse and to the glossy, and you mix it together and it's finished. That's all you have to do. So I can do the ground as well, and I will do just another thing with the ground so you will have additional learning. So we go to the ground, you have it here, and most of the things are in place. We need some bumps, as you know, and so on. So we can do it in the other way that I was discussing. So Shift D, non-color data for the bumps. You add the vector. You add this one here as well. So even if it's non-color data, still need to be generated since it's the image texture. Since it's non-color data, then you can see this yellow as gray. Non-color equals gray, even if it's yellow. So it's okay in this case to put yellow to gray. Okay. Then we add a glossy. So shader, glossy. We add a mix, shader, mix. Put them together. Put the normal together. Put the normal together. And we could also add Fresnel input. Add that one here. Follow the same routine as everyone else. And what I would like to show you now is a little bit about the scale. Since we're not using UV, we don't have the option to scale using UV. So we need another way to do it. So Shift A, vector, mapping. You press mapping here, between, and let's see, so we don't have anything. Everything goes to that one, and vector goes to vector here, and now everything's connected. Here in scale, you could, if you want to, scale the image in different directions. So if you want to scale in Y, you can do that, and you will see it will be smaller here if it's bigger here. So it's the opposite, and that is because we're using point here. If you're using vector, it will be another way. Sorry, if you're using texture, it will be the other way around. So in this case, a small amount means a smaller amount on the stones. But since default is point, we can stay on point and change this to, like, say, 3, and perhaps also have them a little bit in that way. So now we have smaller stones here, even if we didn't use the UV because of the mapping here. And since we have the generated going through the mapping, it still goes through here and gets generated out here, and then we have the normal build here, so to say, and everything looks very nice and clean, and it's good to render. And we only used 264 vertices and 250 faces, which means that the render will go rather quickly and have a rather good output with some bumps on it and so on. It looks a little bit plastic here, but it's settings. You can change them and finally get exactly what you want. So that is how you work with image texture without using nodes. Hope you learned something, and hope I will see you in the next session. Bye for now.